Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyanam Jarasharakaya Chakshurunmiritam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Vishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Darati Swapadantikam He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kantha Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Brindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hare Priye Vanshakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namaham Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirashashashannavari Pashtatare Shatarine. So I see that Yogamaya is present. Oh, Yogamaya, I am begging you. Please take away this, our vision of the opulence of the Lord, so that we can only accept Him in His full sweetness as Rajendra Nandana Krishna. Please take away any of our material positions so that we can accept Him as our friend. So, welcome, dear devotees. Today, I have a very special story to share with you. It's been a very long time, actually, I shared this story. First time I shared it was in 2016 in ISKCON, Calgary, after I had read the Brihad Bhagavatamrita. So, I'd like to ask you a question. Who here read the Brihad Bhagavatamrita? Jai. Beautiful. And online, are there any devotees who read the Brihad Bhagavatamrita before? It's a very beautiful book. So, yes, actually, in his commentary, the Sanatana Goswami, he reveals how he received the Brihad Bhagavatamrita. First, what does Brihad Bhagavatamrita means? Do you know?
The creator of Bhagavatam?
Yeah, the creator. Brihad, the creator, and Amrita, nectar, the greatest nectar of the Bhagavatam. And it was a book that was written in Sanskrit by Janamejaya 5,000 years ago. He's one of the sadhus who helped Vyasadeva to write the Vedas. And Janamejaya, he wrote this nectar of the Bhagavatam, which is an actual story. So 5,000 years ago, after Maharaj Parikshit, he heard the whole Bhagavatam from the lotus mouth of Shukadev Goswami. He was supposed to die, we know, from the bite of the snake, what's his name? Takshaka? Takshaka. But for the mercy, actually, it was his great fortune and the great fortune of the whole world that his lifespan was extended for 3 days. There are 2 reasons for that. 1, to share the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, and 2, so that Mother Uttara could hear it. So after Mother Teresa, she had heard that her own son had received the teachings of the Bhagavatam. Then she wanted to meet him because she knew he was going to die soon, but also she wanted to hear the Bhagavatam from the mouth of her own son. And it was very special because he only had 3 days. He gave the essence of the Bhagavatam, henceforth the Brihad Bhagavatamrita. And he took out superfluous details like the material creation. He went just to the essence because he only had 3 days. And he shared it in a very beautiful format, in 2 stories. Which stories are they? First is Narada Muni. Says him. So first story, it's Narada Muni who wants to meet the devotee who has received the greatest mercy of the Lord. And we know that first he goes to different devotees. You know, he goes to Prahlad Maharaj and he goes to Hanuman. Every time he meets the devotee, although he has received, a great mercy from the Lord, says, no, I am not qualified. I have not received the full mercy of the Lord. Please go meet the devotee. Prahlad says that. And then go meet Hanuman. He has received much greater mercy than me. Then Hanuman says the same thing up until Narada Muni meets the Dwarkavasis, and they tell them, no, we have heard the glories of the Brajvasis, and we know that the Brajvasis have received the greatest mercy. And from the Brajvasis, those who have received the greatest mercy of the Lord are the Gopis, the Braja Gopis. And from the Gopis, the Gopi that has received the greatest mercy. Yeah. And one thing I forgot to mention, so this book, although it has been written by Janamejaya, was not into writing at the time of Sanatana Goswami, and he received it through the television of his heart. Just like Prabhupada says, when Sanjay, through his transcendental vision, through the television of his heart, Prabhupada says, he was able to perceive the whole dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna. So in the same way, Sanatana Goswami received the Brihad Bhagavatamrita in his heart, and even more than that, he gave his own commentary also on the Brihad Bhagavatamrita. And by the great mercy of His Grace Gopi Pradhana Prabhu, we were able to receive the translation and commentary of Sanatana Goswami. So, yes, it brings me to the story of Gopa Kumar. And Gopa Kumar has a very unique story because actually he received a blessing from his guru that he will take birth in Govardhan, but also that he will not age beyond 12 years old. He already had his body of a cowherd boy, and he had the same features and everything, and he had the blessings that he will not grow older than 12 years old, and also that he will stay innocent to the ways of the world, the politics.
Who gave the blessings to him?
His guru, his previous guru had given him a special blessing that he will take birth in Govardhan, and that he will be oblivious to the ways of the world. He will be innocent, just like the 4 Kumaras, like they wanted to stay children so that they were innocent to the ways of the world. So in this way, he would be able to focus on the true goal of life. So he was asking some travelers at that time, who came to Govardhan, and they told him that you have to go see that Brahmana. There's a very special Brahmana. And then after, when he was with that Brahmana, he told him, no, you should go to the king. Remember the Brahmana, he was worshipping a Shalagram Shila, but in a box. And when Gopa Kumar saw the Lord of the universe seated in a box, he didn't feel good with that. He said, how can you put the Lord in a box? And the Brahmana, he started to explain to him that this is his palace, this is the throne I have given him, this is his temple. But if you would like to see the Lord in a greater space, then there's a very special king who worships a special deity of Lord Vishnu. So then he decided to go there. And the Brihad Bhagavatamrita is really beautiful because, Prabhupada, first of all, in one quote, he says that we should read the Java Dharma and the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, because he said this book gives a complete science of devotional service. It's a book on Sambandha because Sanatana Goswami is the Sambandha Acharya. Sambandha is the knowledge by which we can understand our relationship with Krishna. So that book gives the complete knowledge of devotional service and step by step, but also there's a very, especially through the story of Gopa Kumar, at first he goes and meet the Shalagram Shila, and then he has like how to say, like deeper and deeper darshans of the Lord, because we know when he was in Govardhan he received a very special mantra. He received the Gopal mantra from his guru there, and we know from later on that actually when Gopa Kumar he meets Lord Narayan in Vaikuntha, he tells him that I came as your guru. I broke my own conduct, my own rules, and I came personally as your guru to give you the Gopal mantra. So when he received that Gopal mantra, because Madan Gopal was his worshipable deity, then he started to worship Madan Gopal through that Gopal mantra. And as he was reciting the Gopal mantra, then he will have special darshans of Gopal. And everywhere he was going, whether he went to see the Shalagram Shila or the Vishnu Murti of the Lord, or when he went to Jagannath Puri, he was always looking for his Madan Gopal. And that was one reason also why he couldn't stay long in one place, because he didn't feel the mood was favorable to his bhav, to his rasa. And that's why he kept going and going. But the way the Lord arranged for his travels was to show us the different expansions of the Lord in different moods, up to the most intimate presence or manifestation of the Lord in his form as Swayam Bhagavan Krishna and Goloka Vrindavan. So I've selected choice verses from the book because they're really beautiful and they really set the scene to this beautiful place that is Goloka Vrindavan. And why am I sharing this story today? It's because when I first read the story of Gopa Kumar, it touched me so deeply. I would say actually I have a great debt towards Gopa Kumar. And I realized that the only debt or the only way I could repay him would be by glorifying him and sharing his story. So it's the first story that really inspired me to go back home, back to Godhead, because Gopa Kumar's story is so sweet and the way Krishna welcomes him in Vrindavan is so special. And that's why I wanted to share today, because we get to see like firsthand what is the experience of a Brajbasi, or to be Brajbasi, you go back home, and how Krishna welcomes him, how he introduces him in his family, and how he interacts with him. So for that, I find that story is very relevant for us, because it is really inspiring in showing us how actually, after I finished the story, I realized that when you enter Vrindavan, you're a part of Krishna's family. And you'll see that there's a special detail there, how he enters into Vrindavan, that really, confirms that point. So, yes, he goes practically everywhere. We know he becomes, he goes to Jagannath Puri, he becomes the king of Jagannath Puri. But everywhere he goes, even goes to Indraloka, he becomes Indra. But when he's in Indraloka, for example, there's so much politics, so many rules and regulations, he's not really able to find his place. When he's the king of Jagannath Puri, he has too many responsibilities. He would just like to stay all the time in front of Jagannath, but he cannot do so because of all his kingly duties. So because of that, as a young boy, he's 12 years old, and he just wants to, and also as he's trying to get a deeper connection with his worshipable deity, Madan Gopal, he doesn't find he can really do so in these different places. So that's why he keeps going to more like higher and higher abodes of the Lord. And it's interesting because we know also he becomes Brahma. There's a story where Brahma, he was meditating and then he saw like some bubbles in the water. And as the bubbles started to come out, then there's a big demon that came out of the waters. And Brahma got afraid and he escaped. And then there was nobody for the post of Brahma. Mm-hmm. And that's why Gopa Kumar took the position of Brahma also. So in this way, he was able to be with what's his name? Mahapurush. No, he was able to be with him. But at the same time, again, he did not feel, because everywhere I was going, the Lord, although he was in different forms, he was always reciprocating with him as Madan Gopal, but still he could not do so fully because of the environment, the associates that were there. And we'll see that more fully when he is in Vaikuntha Loka. Even in Vaikuntha Loka, the Vaikuntha Vasis with 4-arm forms, they're pressuring him to take a 4-arm form. And also, yeah. And we know that he, because he's Gopa Kumar, he was worshiping, he was speaking about Krishna Lila, the different pastimes. And when the associates in Vaikuntha, they were hearing that, they didn't like it because it was not, vibrating in their heart, because they saw the Lord as Lord Narayan, the supreme controller, and to see Krishna who steals butter, who steals the gopis' clothes, and who plays with his gopas, they could not relate with that at all. And for them, actually, that Krishna was kind of an inferior version of Dhar Narayan. So that's why they could not, tolerate hearing these different things. So finally, Gopa Kumar, he enters. We know, like, he gets to go to Vaikuntha Loka after being the king of Jagannath Puri. He goes to all these different places. And then he goes at the gate of Vaikuntha Loka, and then he sees Lord Vishnu with four arms. And then he bows down to him and he starts to cry, "Oh, Vishnu!" But then as soon as the servant, because, he thought he was Vishnu, because in Vaikuntha Loka, the servants, they look exactly the same like Vishnu. What is different? How can we differentiate Vishnu or Lord Narayan and the Vaikuntha Vasis? What's the difference? It's described by Gopa Kumar. And they describe to him also.
Srivat.
Yes. Anything else? So there's the golden hair,
Lakshmi.
which is Lakshmi Devi. There's something else also.
Kastuba Gem.
Kaustuba gem. Yeah, exactly. And also we know he's seated on the throne. Lakshmi is there and all these sages and everything. But they look the same. That's why. And not only the first one, but then he was at the gate, and then more and more servants and with more opulent positions came. There was the leader of the army, the commander-in-chief of the army. And when I was reading that, I was thinking, wow, it's Vaikuntha Loka and there's an army. There's a commander-in-chief and they go to war, because these are the pastimes of the Lord. The Lord himself, he likes to have a good fight, and why not having his own army? So, commander-in-chief comes on a chariot and he says, "Oh, Vishnu Narayan." He bows down to him and says, "No, no, no, stop. I'm just his commander-in-chief." And goes like that for a couple of months, actually. And then, so it goes on, and yes. Okay. So then, the servant, the last servant at the end, he decides to bring him into the palace, and then listens to this. "Finally, the Supreme Lord's compassionate men who were guiding me told me the special signs by which to recognize the Lord. They also taught me what prayers to recite and what etiquette to observe. I passed rapidly through many districts, wonderfully splendid, with all kinds of houses and gates. And then I entered the most excellent, transcendental neighborhood. There I came to one palace, at whose feet many others stood in attendance, a palace distinct, overflowing in greatness, where excellence seemed to reach its highest limit. Like millions of suns and moons, it captured my mind and my eyes. Within that palace, I saw before me at a distance the personality of Godhead, Lord of Vaikuntha. He sat at a leisure on the best of royal thrones, a golden throne shimmering with the glow of many jewels. The cushion on which he sat was of swan-white cotton, fine, attractive, spotlessly clean, and a soft, handsome bolster on which he leaned his left elbow and upper arm appeared like the full moon cleansed of its spots. He was the presiding lord of blossoming youth. The brilliant effulgence of his sweet, attractive limbs defeated the splendor of new rain clouds. The effulgence lent further grace to his garlands, cosmetics, and garments, already graced by the jewelry made of gold bedecked with gems. His four shining arms, long and well built, enhanced the beauty of his bangles and armlets. Two yellow silk garments dressed his body, and charming earrings set off his rounded cheeks. On his broad chest was the Kastuba jewel, on his conch shell neck a string of pearls, and on his moon-like face a nectarian smile. His lotus eyes were alive with playful glances. The great compassion he felt made his beautiful eyebrows dance. Rama is ideally matching concert, standing by his left side, reverently offered him excellent pan to chew, which he accepted. The color of that pan made his bimba fruit lips even more attractive, and the luster reflected on his teeth, 2 rows of spotless kunda flowers. Illumined by the glow of those flowers, his playful smile shone splendidly. His amusing words and gestures stole away the hearts of his devotees. Beautiful. The goddess Dharani, in her hand a vessel to catch the remnants of betel nut, and worshipped the Lord with messages inside long glances. And the Lord's excellent weapons, like Sudarshan, served him in beautiful personified forms, their identities marked marked by symbols on their heads. Interesting. Eh? So there are personalities, but you can see who they are by the mark on their head. Servants stood about him, surrounding him and worshipping him with great respect. Their appearance like his, their hands beautified by transcendental items for his service, like slippers and yak-tail fans. Sesha, Garuda, Vishvakshena, and the other leaders of his many group of attendants bowed down before him with devotion, stood before him with palms joined over above their heads, and praised him in wonderful poetic language. Listen to this. Shri Narada, dancing and his expert singing and vina playing created such clever entertainment that the Lord and his 2 consorts, Rama and Harani, sometimes laughed out loud. To add to the special ecstasy of his devotees, whose hearts are fixed only on him, from time to time the Lord extended both his lotus feet as a way of offering himself. In this way, he exhibited his splendor. The fullness of the ecstasy this sight brought on me made me forget what the attendants of the Lord had instructed me. I cried out again and again, "Oh Gopal, my life and soul!" And I went forth to embrace the Lord. Some discerning attendants who were standing at the Lord's side held me back, and I was heartbroken. I cried out in helpless distress again and again, overcome by my excessive love, and fell unconscious in front of the Lord. So, Gopa Kumar, he was in the mood of friendship with Krishna because Madan Gopal was his worshipable deity. And he would see whomever, like, expansion of the Lord, whether it is Narayan or Jagannath or Vishnu, he will always see Krishna. So that's why, and also, even in that environment with all the Vaikuntavasis, you will see that the Lord reciprocate with him in that way. We even know that after some time, Gopa Kumar started to dance, and other sakas manifested, and they danced and they played the flute in front of Lord Narayan and all the others. So that was an unusual sight, a peculiar sight for the Vaikuntavasis. So, yes. So the Lord Narayan, although it was not really the place, he still reciprocated with him. And but his attendants tried to stop Gopa Kumar because he was starting to run towards, the Lord of Vaikuntha. And the Vaikuntavasis, they could not accept such like reciprocating spontaneous devotion. But because of his love, he couldn't stop himself. He was completely taken away by his love. So with some effort, those attendants lifted me up. And after some time, I regained my consciousness. I wiped away with my hands the flood of tears that blocked my sight. And with difficulty, I finally opened my eyes. Then I heard the Lord, the best of merciful persons, tell me in a deep, gentle voice. So listen to this carefully, because it's where it's really getting interesting. So please, he says, please come back to your senses. Dear boy, come here quickly. I then felt the highest limit of joy. I danced all around as if seized by madness and stumbled about. But with great endeavor, the Lord's servants calmed me down, and at last I awakened from that trance. The Supreme Lord said, "Welcome, welcome, my dear boy. I am fortunate, most fortunate to meet you here. For so long, I have been eager to see you. So touching. My dear friend, you have passed many lifetimes paying no attention to me at all. For so long, hope at me dancing like a fool, thinking, perhaps in this lifetime, or this one, or this, he will finally turn his face towards me. But I could not find any pretext on which to bring you to my abode, dear brother, and still follow the timeless laws that I myself have created. You showed me no mercy. And as I considered this, I grew impatient, full of anxiety to receive your favor. So I transgressed my eternal code of conduct and arranged for you to take your current birth. Dear boy, in that divine district of Govardhan, my most beloved abode. So Lord Narayan is speaking. And by saying this, he confirms that Govardhan or Vrindavan is highest of all. I myself became your guru, known by the name Jayanta. So Jayanta was the guru who gave him the Gopal mantra, but it was none other than Krishna himself. Today you have at last fulfilled the desire I've harbored for so long. Please nourish your happiness and mine by staying here forever. Wow. So this is how Krishna feels for his devotees. So the reality is that just like Prabhupada said, Krishna, he has much more desire for us to be with him than we have a desire to be with him. That's the reality. And we see it directly and so clearly from this encounter in between Narayan and Gopa Kumar. So, yes, so after he met Narayan, he was, face to face. He was trying to stay there because he got attached to Narayan. And he was seeing him. Also, Narayan was reciprocating with him as Madan Gopal. Because everywhere he will go, he will see Madan Gopal in front of him. But he became a little bit disappointed after a while because he didn't have the space and the association to delve deeper into his bhav. And also, like I was saying, he received so much pressure from the Vaikuntavasis to change into a four-arm form. He couldn't speak any Krishna Lila also while he was there. It was disturbing the Vaikuntavasis. And it was ridiculizing a lot. They felt that how can you speak about the Lord like that he can play and have fun like this? He's a worshipable Lord. And because, the mood was not appropriate, he didn't feel quite at home. So it pushed him to go higher and higher. And every place he will go, it was like that. So then after that, he goes to Jagannath Puri in the spiritual world. What does he see when he goes? The original Jagannath Puri. What does he see when he goes there? Yeah. He sees Jagannath. And what's interesting is that he has the same wooden form, like he has when here in the material world. Or, in his abode that he manifests in this universe. So, but he became, like we were saying, he was, because he had a special position of a king, he could not fully reciprocate with him. He just wanted to stay all the time with Jagannath. So after a while, he decided to go further. And then he goes to Ayodhya. He meets Ramachandra. But, he appreciates the friendship that he has. But because, there's a certain mood there, he could not fully express his friendship with Lord Ramachandra also. Because although he expressed his friendship only with certain individuals like Lakshman, so he could not stay there. Then he goes to Dwarka to see Krishna there, but because Krishna is the king there, he's not also able to always be with him. We know he has 16, in Dwarka Loka, in the original Dwarka, he has many more princesses, but he's not able to be with him all the time. So, and also he has his kingly duties that he has to attend to, and Gopa Kumar cannot act freely around him also because he's in the mood of a king. So then again he goes away and then he meets Narada Muni. What does he tell him? That if you want to fulfill all your desires...
Puri.
Sorry?
Go to Puri?
No.
No. Yeah, go to Vrindavan.
Yes. Where? Which Vrindavan?
Boma Vrindavan.
Yes, go to Boma Vrindavan on this earth, on this planet, and then all your desires will be fulfilled. So now he goes back to Vrindavan. He started in Vrindavan, And he did all these travels to go back to Vrindavan. So, following his instructions, he goes back to Braj, and then he went to see many places of Krishna's pastime. And what's interesting is that, and we'll see, no, I won't say that now, we'll say it later. So then he continues. Gopa Kumar speaks, he says, "So I sang his names most dear to me. I sang about his pastime loudly and sweetly. Now, finally, after so many places, he could finally, utter the names of his Madan Gopal and just freely glorify his sweet leelas. So I focused my mind upon them, and I attained such a state of ecstasy and became so emotional that it embarrasses me even to think of it. How then can I describe this to anyone else?" And it's so beautiful because somehow or other we can hear this. This is the mercy of Gopa Kumar. That's why I love this story. He's bringing us into the intimacy of his heart and the fulfillment of all of his desires. So in such a way I lived in this grove, this most attractive ornament of Vrindavan, and one day, while immersed in an ocean of weeping, I fell unconscious. Then the crest jewel of all who are merciful appeared before me with his own lotus hand, a hand cold like nectar, and always pleased to hold his flute. He wiped the dust from my limbs. It wasn't easy, but that greatest of cheats playfully steered me back to consciousness by filling my nostrils with his unique heady fragrances I had never known before. So beautiful. Huh? Oh, have you ever heard anything like this before? Then, seeing his lotus face, I quickly stood up. Not knowing what I was doing, my heart filling with joy, I tried to catch hold of his splendid yellow cloth. That king of charming heroes blew his flute in his own playful way and escaped behind me. Suddenly, he stepped into a grove, and alas, though I ran about looking, I couldn't find him. He had disappeared, unable to see him. I fainted and fell into the swift current of the Yamuna, and as it forcefully carried me away, I seemed to regain normal wellness and looked around. I saw myself being transported to another place, along some wonderful path, by a vehicle flying faster than the mind and higher than one could ever imagine. Collecting my wits, I was amazed to see I was passing through Vaikuntha and going beyond. I watched with great delight as I passed Ayodhya and other realms. And I remember when I was reading this for the first time, I remember what Prabhupada said, that of all Krishna's creation, 25% is the material creation, and 75% is the spiritual world. So you can imagine when Gopa Kumar goes, and it's described by the acharyas. There are different ways of going back home, but there's one way like this, where you're transported into a vehicle, and then you go out, because we remember from Gopa Kumar, as he goes from this universe, he goes into the outer coverings of the universe. Mm-hmm. And in each covering, you remember what he describes? In each covering, there's the covering of the earth. First is the earth. When he goes in, he sees the beautiful kingdom. And then there is Lord Varadev that is worshipped there by Bhumi Devi, which is the earth personified. And then he goes into the next, and in each covering, there's a beautiful kingdom, up until the last one. Remember, he spent some time there. What was the last covering? No, that's after that. We're still in the material universe. But the last covering, the most subtle covering. Yes.
False ego.
Sorry?
Ego.
Yes, exactly. So there is, it's Durga Devi actually that is there. And then it's interesting because although she knows he's Gopa Kumar, she kind of like seduces him to stay there. And while he is there with Durga Devi, he's kind of hypnotized by the glimmering, the bling bling of the material world. And she keeps him in that state for a while. And then after a while, he remembers his worshipable friend, Madan Gopal, and then he starts to feel that he has to come out, and Durga Devi she's trying to keep him, but it's just a pastime to show us how she is serving the Lord. So then he comes out and he goes where? He goes into the Brahmajyoti, but what does he find there? Lord Mahakala. And he has his kingdom there, and all the jivas are there, and he's most effulgent, like millions of suns, and then what he describes, he sees the Lord, and all the jivas, the individual jivas who are there, they're just like stars that are adding to the effulgence of Lord Mahakala. And he goes there into the abode, but because that abode is there for those who want to have the experience of merging to be one with the Lord, with Brahman, then as he is there, he's feeling also kind of attracted to just like be merging into Brahman. And he goes into that state, and after a while, his heart is pushing him to go towards Madan Gopal, and he goes away from this place also. So, yes. So I arrived at the shining world above all others. Just one thing, okay, I wanted to say. It's quite interesting. I was saying there are different ways by which we can come out and go back home, back to Godhead. And that way by which Gopa Kumar did, actually the Acharyas, they describe that as we go into the different places, we see the different incarnations of the Lord. We see also the abodes, the kingdoms that are there, the places of enjoyment. And if we're attracted to such places, we go back and we take birth in these places. And as a final test, just before we go into Vaikuntha Loka and beyond, in which we see in this world the greatest position that we will ever want to obtain. And it comes right in front of us like a mirror. And if you are attracted to that position that you can become, then you get that position. So it's crazy, yeah? Yeah. So this is one way of going back home. There are other ways also. We know from Narada Muni, it just was like a lightning flash, and then he was Narada Muni. So there are different ways. But there is that aspect that, and Gopa Kumar, he went through that because at the end he was allured by Durga Devi for some time. He was allured also by the Brahmajyoti for a while. He went through all the experiences, the conditioned souls they can go in this material world, progressively towards the pure devotion, the Braj Bhakti. So I arrived at the shining world, above all others, Shri Goloka, which I had long aspired to reach. Everything there appeared the same as this divine Mathura Mandal, the material world. In that realm, beyond the reach of all the demigods, planetary rulers, and personal attendants of the Supreme Lord, I saw that life was going on just as here in this Aryavarta country in Bharatvarsha on earth. He didn't see any difference, actually, as this Boma Vrindavan. The sun was rising and the other natural events were taking place every day in the sky. And under them, the people were speaking and behaving in the same way as here. I was stunned by astonishment, extreme astonishment, and immersed in an ocean of ecstatic rasa. The point is, actually, after a few moments, I saw some men who might have been cowards, wandering in the forest with some ladies, advanced in years, and also wearing coward dress, who were picking flowers. The people there were different from anyone I had ever seen. Someone, it appeared, had stolen the wealth of their hearts and left them helplessly in love with him. It's very beautiful, this, because he says that he had never seen any other associates like them, and he had seen all other associates. He had been to Dwarka Loka, to Ayodhya, and he says that he has never seen such beauty like the Brajbasis. Like no one else expresses as much beauty as the residents of Vrindavan. Yeah.
Kala Danda is clocking.
The what? The clock is ticking? Oh, yes.
It'll be 9 o'clock already.
Okay, so what do we do?
I don't know. I think this is now interesting passage. Will take some time. We could do it tomorrow.
Okay.
Or
there's not much left.
Not much? Okay,
yeah.
Go ahead.
After a few moments, I saw some men who might have been cowards, wandering in the forest with some ladies, advanced in years, and also wearing coward dress. Okay, yeah. Simply by seeing them, I felt the same kind of loving affection. Trying hard, I composed myself and respectfully asked them the following questions. Oh, good people, you're served by a happiness so vast that the greatest sages can't obtain it, even in dreams. You're reservoirs of the mercy of the Lord, the husband of the goddess of fortune, mercy for which his loving devotees always pray. Please look with kindness upon this most wretched person who has come to you. for shelter. Tell me, who is the king of this region? Where is his residence? Which roads leads there? Why is he asking another question? Is that they're so much absorbed in Krishna that they don't even, they're not even conscious that Gopa Kumar is there and asking them questions. So he continues again, he tries to get them out of their absorption. Dear most fortunate people, please be merciful to me who am asking you with mournful cries. Please give me some answer, O faithful devotees, if even only by gesture. Because they were not even looking at him. Oh, please hear the words of this tormented soul. Alas, you must be under the spell of that clever cheat. So he's thinking like that Krishna maybe he's hypnotized all of them because he's a great cheat. In this way, I moved here and there, anxiously questioning each person I met. And as I made my way forward, I came to the pasturing grounds of the cowherds. So we're getting closer to his meeting Krishna. Looking around in all directions, I spotted in the distance a town adorned with the essence of all sweetness. On one side of that town, all about, I heard wonderful songs sung by cowherd women, and the charming sound of the churning of butter and the jingling of bangles. Trying to subdue my agitated joy, I walked forward and came across a seated elderly gentleman, sobbing profusely, incessantly chanting, Krishna, Krishna, Krishna! With some skillful effort, I made him speak, and I heard him say in a choked voice that this town belonged to Nanda, the king of the cowherds, Shri Krishna's father. As soon as I heard those words, I fainted, overcome with delight. We're getting closer. After a moment, that compassionate old man revived me, and I ran ahead and approached a gateway of the town and sat there in the gate. And there, listen to this, I saw, just at the gate of Nandagram, I saw by the hundreds of thousands and tens of millions all sorts of wonders unseen, unheard of, unimaginable by anyone of this world. And he was just at the gate of Nandagram. So much opulence is there. Just like we were saying another class that, just one garden of Nanda Maharaj in Nandagram is more opulent than all of Vaikuntha-loka. Oh, best of Brahmanas, how could you could then discern whether the people there were all enjoying? Because he's speaking to, what's his name, Jayadharma. We know later on when he went back home, back to Godhead, Srimati Radharani, she called him and she asked him to personally descend in Boma Vrindavan and take care of her devotee Jayadharma and become his guru and guide him towards her. How?
Jai Sharma.
Jai Sharma, his name?
Jana Sharma
Jana Sharma. Thank you.
is the name of the problem.
Jana Sharma, sorry. Oh, best of Brahmanas, how could you could then discern whether the people there were all enjoying the highest bliss or suffering in the grip of terrible misery? I heard songs coupled with their crying, but were they songs of the greatest contentment or the greatest sorrow? I couldn't tell. The feelings expressed by the residents of Vrindavan were so deep and so mesmerizing that he couldn't understand whether it was happiness or sorrow. Something he had never seen before, never felt before. A person seeing that place might think he was in the material world. But by carefully reflecting on whatever he had seen before, he would understand he was now somewhere above all material planets, all higher non-planetary regions, and all the transcendental realms of the spiritual world. So interesting. Then an elderly lady came by. I bowed down to her and asked in a plaintive voice where Shri Nandanandan was playing today. He was eager to see his friend for the first time. The elderly lady said, this morning, the giver of life to us, Brajbasis, went into the dense forest to play with his cows and friends and his respected elder brother. Later, at dusk, he will return. So all the Brajbasis, they're waiting on this path along the Yamuna. Their eyes are transfixed on the road. There are trees standing with their leaves erect, eagerly waiting for a chance to see him. Surely he will come along this path. So Sri Gopa Kumar, he said, as if anointed by the downpour of the purest nectar, I gazed with one pointed attention down the path the lady had pointed out. The sheer force of my ecstasy had frozen my thighs, but with some effort, I moved on and I heard from afar a certain sound, mixed with the mooing of cows. It was a supremely attractive murmur of Krishna's enchanting flute. That sound, sweet melodies of sportingly played notes, diverse with musical embellishments, was like nothing I had ever heard before in the material world. Its attractive force at once overwhelmed everyone in the cowherd village. Listen to this. By the power of that sound, sap flowed in a downpour from the long rows of trees. A flood of tears fell from the eyes of every embodied being in the village of the cowherds. A shower of milk rained from the breast of all of Krishna's mothers. Even the elderly and the rapid currents of the Yamuna suddenly stood still. I didn't know whether that flute gave out poison or the nectar of immortality, whether the sound was harsh like a thunderclap or soft like water, hotter than blazing fire or cooler than the moon. I couldn't tell, but that sound drove all the Brajavasis completely mad. All of them were utterly bewildered. Then I saw some women of Braj come out of their homes, bearing in their hands the things needed to greet Krishna with worship. Others who passed by held ornaments and offerings of food on their heads. Other ladies, ignoring everything around them, ran toward the mingled sounds of the mooing of the cows and the sound of the flute. In the frenzy of love for Krishna, the ladies stumbled on the path. Some ladies ran with their ornaments in disarray. Some could hardly keep their belts and hair tied. Some stayed in their homes, stunned like trees, and others fell unconscious on the ground. The ladies, so diverse in complexion and adorned with diverse ornaments and dress, put to shame the good fortune of the goddess of fortune herself. Swiftly the ladies ran to the bank of the Yamuna, absorbed in singing his names and pastimes. I too went forward, as if pulled by someone. Joining the trunk of gopis, rushing forward on all sides, I too began to run quickly. Then, from a distance, I saw him, his charming flute in hand, running quickly. He emerged from among his friends and animals and approached me, saying in a sweet voice, "Look, Sridham, here's my dear friend Sarupa, the sun who shines on the lotus of your family." So Krishna is telling us the true name of Gopa Kumar, Sarupa, who is in the family of Sridham, the family of Srimati Radharani. Krishna was dressed for the forest. His garments, earrings, and pack of feather crown all swayed to and fro, and so did his garland of kadamba flowers. His fragrance perfumed all directions, and his beautiful lotus face blossomed with a playful smile. His lotus eyes beamed with a merciful glance, and the very assets of beauty decorated him in a singular way. The fingers of his lotus hand busily pushed back the locks of his hair, which flew about, adorned with the dust raised by the cows. The effulgence of his cloud-colored body, shining with the full sweetness of youth, lit up all corners of the sky. His beauty, which captured the hearts of the ever-dear devotees of Braj, was an ocean abounding with countless excellences. He leaped forward and came close to me, compelled by the affection of his helpless devotee. I fainted in love at seeing him. He caught hold of me by the neck, and suddenly he too fell to the ground. A moment later, I reawoke and carefully freed my neck from his grasp. I stood up and saw him on the ground, unconscious, covered with dust. He was moistening the path with his tears. Some gopis came and said, "Look, who has come here? What has he done? He has put our life and soul into such a state. Alas, alas, Just see, people of Raj, now we are all dead. This must be some servant of that great wizard Kamsa. Lamenting like this, in many ways, the gopis cried loudly in distress as they surrounded Krishna. From far away in the village, Nanda and the other cohorts heard this terrible sound of crying. So too did Yashoda, ever affectionate to her son, and so did the other elder ladies and the maidservants. Together, they all ran to that place, their feet stumbling on a path. Bewildered, they too cried, "Alas, alas." As for me, I was drawing in a vast ocean of sorrow, confused about what to do. Severely tormented, I put Krishna's feet on my head and began profusely sobbing and lamenting. Lord Balabhadra, that most skillful of persons, cried for a moment, but then seemed to regain his composure and looked all around. With great care and attention, he made me hold his younger brother by the neck with my arms. He wiped Krishna's beautiful limbs clean with my own hand and made me loudly call out to him with many plaintive cries. Then he made me lift Krishna up from the ground. Suddenly, Krishna opened his eyes, sealed till then by a flood of tears. Seeing me, he joyfully embraced and kissed me, but then he looked around and became embarrassed because the whole village was there. He became shy. The best of lords took my hand in his own left lotus hand, and received me as a long-lost bosom friend. He asked me various questions. Then he greeted all the people of Braj and entered the best of cowherd villages with the gait of an elephant. The forest animals were miserable because now they had to part from him. Unable to go anywhere without him, they simply stood at the entrance of the village, ready to spend the entire night there, in the hope of seeing the Lord again the next morning. Can you imagine? They're all waiting there all night long just to hope to get darshan, Krishna's darshan again. Yashoda performed arti to her son Krishna by caressing him with her own hair and affectionately embraced and kissed him. She couldn't decide whether she had to keep him on her head, on her breast, or within her womb to protect him. Krishna, anxious with love for me, brought me there outside his home and had me offer respects to her, his own very mother. And Mother Yashoda, seeing the great love Krishna had for me, happily caressed me as though I were her own son. So when I read this verse, I accepted in my heart that when you go back home, back to Godhead, you go back to Krishna's family and you become part of Krishna's family. And that pastime proves it, definitely, beyond any doubt. Is it possible to describe his beauty, the splendor of his effulgent complexion, or his charming sweetness? To that sweetness, no things in this world can compare, nor can even the sweetness of God himself in other forms, not even as the Lord of Dwarka. Okay, there's one last thing I want to share with you. As Krishna is the most superb of all romantic heroes, so Radha is the most superb of romantic heroines. So Srimati Radharani is the counterpart of Krishna. How much can I say about that supreme reality? Oh, the world of Goloka, its multitude of residents, honored by all the world, always perceive its greatness. So now I have said enough. To all who live with the Lord in that abode, I offer my obeisances. Yes. Is there everything else? No, I think that's it. Yes. So, on this day, I'd like to thank from the bottom of my heart Gopa Kumar for being so kind and merciful to us to share us his whole story so that he can inspire us to go back home, and also just like he was able to be with Krishna face to face, so that one day we can also be with Krishna face to face and become his friend again. So we'll finish here. Are there any questions or comments before we finish? Yes.
Um, First question is, we heard about Gopa Kumar uh, passing all these planets and as well as
Mhm.
the dhams, and then he went reached to Jagannath Puri and then to Dwarka Dham also, just one step closer to eternal Goloka Vrindavan.
Mm.
So I'm just confused. Like then Narada Muni instructed him to go to Bhama Vrindavan. Uh, then why can't the eternal Vrindavan in spiritual world? Then why he came to the Bhama Vrindavan? Maharaj?
Mm. Well, first of all, this is all a pastime. We know that actually Sarupa is an eternal associate of Krishna. But, like now Shrimati Radharani herself, she has asked him to come down and to take care of her devotee, Jana Sharma. In the same way, she asked him before that to come down in the material one and go through that whole, journey to inspire all living entities about, and to show the greatness of Goloka Vrindavan, how Krishna in his form as Branjendranandana is the highest form of the Absolute. How rasa that is there in between he and his associates is that highest rasa that can be expressed due to the intimacy and sweetness that is there. Just like Maharaj was saying yesterday, Krishna in Vrindavan, he completely forgets he is God and he's completely controlled by the love of his devotees. So that is a pastime, first of all, to show us. And then after that, actually, Gopa Kumar, it's not like he personally needed to go through all this. It's not that he personally needed to go back to Boma Vrindavan, but he showed us how it is done. Because, we were saying that this book is Sambandha Gyan. It shows us how to develop your relationship with Krishna, the different aspects, different degrees of that relationship with Krishna. So that's why he went through that. And for us, why it is relevant for us, that specific story, how he went to Boma and then was introduced into Goloka, is because we are meant to go in this way also. We were describing that in the previous class. Actually, Prabhupada himself in the Krishna book, in the introduction, he says that the perfection of life is to go into the universe where Krishna performs his pastimes, just like a transcendental caravan, and to take birth there. And the Acharyas, they explain that this is how we enter into Vrindavan. We go into the universe where Krishna performs his Boma Lila pastimes. We take birth from the womb of Eternal Mother, and there we are trained into loving Krishna. Because Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says in the Madhura Kadambini that it is only when you meet Krishna face to face that all of the anarthas, all of the aparadhas, the offenses, like the offenses to the devotees or the holy name, are completely purified for eternity, he says. It is only when we meet Krishna face to face. So that's why we need to go to that period of training. But that training is special because we're surrounded by Nitya Siddhas, eternal associates of Radha and Krishna. We take womb from our eternal mother, our family, our eternal associates. Just by that, we receive prema. I was saying the first prema we receive is from the milk from our mother because it's full of love for Krishna. And then after that, we meet our group leader who is of the same rasa, or like our eternal guru, and he cultivates that love in our heart so that we can develop prema towards Radha and Krishna. And that's how gradually. But there's a period of transcendental training which I appreciate, which is beautiful, because also in that place you get to be part of the Bhoma Lila pastimes where Krishna he lifts up Govardhan, fights the demons and all of that. Because in Goloka Vrindavan it's different. There are demons, but there are Krishna's friends. It is. I think it is described also in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita. Yes, actually, after Gopa Kumar is there, yeah, Kaliya is like the transport. It's like in Goloka Vrindavan, it's like a transport for Krishna. Sometimes Krishna he goes on top of Kaliya with his cowherd boyfriends, and they move around with him. Sometimes Keshi, the horse demon, also he brings them up for a ride, things like that. So it's different. But it's beautiful to be able to be part of Boma Lila pastime for one time before going to the eternal Lilas of Radha and Krishna. So does that answer your question?
Yes.
Yeah. You said you have another question?
Yeah,
also?
the quick thing. I'm just thinking like in Goloka Vrindavan and in Bhama Vrindavan also, everyone is always young. They don't go old. So including Yashoda and then Nanda Maharaj. Even Krishna met them after 100 years.
Yes.
They still end. And then milk is dripping from Yashoda's breast.
Hmm.
So I'm just thinking that there's one comment that Gopa Kumar made here, that compassionate old man lifted me up, Nanda Baba. I'm just trying to understand the significance of that word. Is it because he's elder, then he used the old man, or is it literally old that time?
That's a good question. Well, first of all, just like Krishna, Mother Yashoda, Nanda Maharaj, and all of the inhabitants of Vrindavan, when they are in the Boma Lila pastimes, they grow up to their eternal age. For Krishna, for example, Krishna is 5 years and 9 months, so he doesn't go beyond that age. But it's 15 years. But actually, what is this described is Krishna in Vrindavan, he goes up onto the, what is the Sanskrit word? Yovana, no?
Yovana?
Is it Yovana? Before the adolescence? What is the Sanskrit? Anyway, sorry? Kishore, no? Kishore. So, in Vrindavan, Krishna, he goes up to that age. It's just like a flower that is about to blossom. This is Krishna's eternal age. Srimati Radharani is the same. And there's a special fragrance that is there because he's just about to blossom. There's a special fragrance and freshness in Krishna's beauty, qualities, etc. But when he goes to Dwarka, then he is into adolescence and there's a different mood there. But it's the same for Mother Yashoda. Although they go for 125 years, Krishna, he stays, on the planet. But up until they go to that eternal age, then he never holds ages older than that. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it's a little different, And we can see for example, Srila Prabhupada into his sadhaka deha, sadhaka form, he gets to be older and everything. But these are different pastimes. But regarding Krishna, that's how it works. So that's the first thing. And the other thing, actually, for eternity, some are babies. For eternity, some are elderly gopas also, or gopis. So some are very old. For example, Krishna, he has a friend that is blind. But because he is blind, he has a very special darshan of Krishna. And Krishna has special affection for him. So he doesn't see externally, but internally, he has a darshan of Krishna that no other friends can have. So it's very special. And although some have elderly forms, still they are in eternal, not youthfulness, but freshness. So it doesn't change that. But some for eternity have older bodies. Yes. But when you are in the experience of eternity, it's not the same like here. It's not that they experience old age, you understand? I mean, they have a body that makes it favorable to a certain rasa with Krishna and certain interaction and services. But it's not old age like we experience here. We cannot compare. There's a good example of that in the Srimad Bhagavatam when Krishna is with the, I think it's with King Ugrasen. Shukadev Goswami, maybe it's in the purport also, it's described that actually the elder, like Yadus, they're shining like millions of suns, although they are elderly. And that's a good example of that. And Prabhupada says, although they are elderly, they're resplendent with freshness. Yeah. Does that answer to your question?
So here Nanda Maharaj is elderly?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we know for certain Rupa Goswami describes in the Radha Krishna Ganadesh Deepika that Nanda Maharaj, he has a beard which is black and white, like salt and pepper. So he's of a certain age. Purnamasi, she's of an older age. I mean, she's the, how do you say, the dean? Not the dean, but the, what's the word,
Superintendent.
Yes, she is the superintendent. I mean, she's the eldest. She's the most respected of all,
She's like the Mahant.
She's the Mahant, exactly. Mother Yashoda, every morning, she offers her respect to Purnamasi Devi. She gets advice from her and everything. So, but she's in an elderly form. No, Purnamasi Devi.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Anything else? Jai Gopa Kumar ki, Jai Sanatan Goswami ki, Jai Brihad Bhagavatamrita ki, Jai going back to Godhead in this very lifetime ki, Janitai Gaura Premanande.